Alright everyone, we've reached Tuesday and I'm back with all of the latest stories concerning Celtic and emphasis on the word concerning right at this very point. But things could always change. We did cover most of the chat about the Kilmarnock game yesterday. I don't really want to go back into all of that. It's not massively important now. It's all about obviously what happens from here on. May delve into it in little bits when we cover various topics. But yeah, I just kind of want to look forward now and try, to look at ways Celtic can improve. And yeah, there really is no other way for it this season. The team have to show something new and they have to try and put a run of form together that they've really not been capable of all season if we're going to have any chance of winning this league. We know we've got big fixtures coming up. The first one of them is one I'm not particularly looking forward to against Motherwell on Sunday, but things can always change quickly. I've kind of got a voice in my head doubting what I'm saying when I say stuff like that, but it's nice to have some sort of a positive outlook. There's only a couple of points in it at the top, and maybe this Celtic team can kind of use this week off to reset. I think it's fairly obvious that there has already been a reset this season at one stage. It was in early to mid-December when we went through that run of back-to-back league defeats to Kilmarnock and Hearts at Celtic Park. And I think after that, and given how toxic the atmosphere had been and how much of a kind of end of days feeling there was at Celtic Park that day, there was a need for the team to reset in that week. And they came out against Livingston on the following Saturday and weren't great, but got the job done and kind of kicked on from there on over the next 3 games up until the winter break. They were able to get from that low point against Hearts to a stage where they could beat all-conquering, incredible Rangers. So it shows that they have the ability to kind of dust themselves off and move forward, but they really need to do it now, and I really hope that's what we're going to see. Really got my doubts, but I'm still hoping for the best possible result here. We got plenty of comments in on yesterday's video. There was one in particular that I wanted to just pick out. It came in from at SN7PS142, very catchy name. Thanks for the comment. It says, "Hi Hamish, your thoughts on this? Ange played 99% of the time the 4-3-3 system. He bought players to fit that style with inverted wing backs and overload on the wings. His tactics were to play fast, press relentlessly and transition from defence to attack quickly. Now Rodgers has tried 4-3-3, 3-5-2, 4-4-2, 4-4-1-1 and so on and so on. Why? I have asked many people to explain what style and tactics Rodgers has this team playing, and so far I have not had a solid answer. Would appreciate your thoughts." This is one of the big frustrations that I feel and that I'm seeing from other Celtic fans is you watch us and you can't even see what the team are trying to do. It's really not obvious what the game plan is. And obviously under the previous manager there was a game plan there that was so well documented. Ange Ball was a thing even before he came to Celtic, so we all kind of knew what we were in store for. And even when Postecoglou's team started and there was that kind of weird period where he didn't have the players, and we actually took quite a while to sign players in that first summer window, the last day for the likes of Jota and Carter Vickers and Giakoumakis. But even before then, when he didn't have the players who would go on to be the title-winning players in that title-winning team, you could see what the team were trying to do with obvious things like sprinting out to take quick goal kicks and corners and throw-ins, adding to the feeling that something was building. And I think as fans we like to feel like there's something building, and even if the results aren't there, which they weren't in the early Postecoglou days, you could see what the team was trying. And I'm not saying that got Postecoglou completely away from all criticism. There was a period where people were doubting him when we lost at Livingston and all of that kind of stuff. But you could always see some sort of a game plan. And as I say, this season, I don't know if that's been obvious at any point. And yeah, hindsight is great, but I wonder, Brendan Rodgers coming in after Postecoglou, should he have just kept more things the same way that they were in a successful team of the previous 2 years? Like, I get that when a new manager comes in, he wants to put his own print on things, and Rodgers wouldn't want it to be seen as, oh, he's just kind of carrying on Postecoglou's work. But would we have been in a better position had he decided to keep some of the things going? Bearing in mind that it's like basically was the same coaching team. Well, it was at that stage, Harry Kewell included. Like, things like taking the quick goal kicks, like, why did we kind of stop that under Rodgers when the squad that was there that he inherited were so used to it? And the quick, corner kicks. And the big one for me, like Kyogo, like the effectiveness of Kyogo in the previous 2 seasons, running in behind, 95% of the brilliance of Kyogo came as a result of his movement running in behind. So we're going to try and change all that. And I can only think that's because Rodgers wanted to be made out as a bit of a genius, because he turned Kyogo into an even better player. And what has happened is that Kyogo's become like pretty ineffective for Celtic. I know he scores the odd goal, and he scored a couple in the last 2 matches, but it's not the same Kyogo as we saw under the previous manager. So yeah, it's a long way of me saying that if I had been Brendan Rodgers, I would have kept more things the same. But then again, he spoke at the start of the season. I'm thinking back, and he did say there wasn't, there wouldn't be big changes. The playing styles between him and Postecoglou were very similar. I think that there's obviously been so many issues wrong at the club this season that have contributed to this kind of position we're in, where we're fighting for our very lives in the title race. And yeah, that lack of a game plan's pretty obvious, I would say. The players would have had such a defined playing style under Postecoglou, and it's not been apparent this season, and that must have an effect on them. And obviously when you add in the dire recruitment, that may be the number one reason, to be honest, and also the injuries that we've had, which is an excuse, but it's also fact. We've had a lot of injuries and a few other things going on at the club. I just think they've all contributed to this really kind of tough position that we find ourselves in at the moment. I don't think we're going to find a playing style between now and the end of the season either. I don't know if that's the kind of thing you can find at this late point in the season. I think if we win the league, it's going to be a case of the team just managing to rid themselves of this weird lacklustre run of form that they've been on, and maybe bits of individual brilliance, and maybe a catalyst somewhere, someone like Hatate coming back in, or Kyogo suddenly, doing what he does best again. Something like that could still save us, but I don't think it's going to be a result of this amazing playing style that we're going to find. I don't even know if there's a desire to find a playing style. And there's so many things in recent matches that just would not have been tolerated under the previous manager. Which leads us on to Liel Abada, who may well not be a Celtic player for too much longer. There's a report in the Scottish Sun that came out on Monday evening from David Friel, their reporter, and he says that discussions will take place between Celtic and Liel Abada's agent over the coming days. Now, the report says that Abada is keen to leave Celtic. It looks like the MLS, Major League Soccer in the USA, United States of America, is kind of where he'll probably be heading. Seems like nobody wants to wait until the summer to sort this out. Abada wants to leave the club. The report says Celtic are sympathetic to his situation, whatever that means. So it seems like Abada is going to be moving on sooner rather than later. And I think the MLS is basically the only transfer window that's open at the moment. Rodgers had mentioned a loan deal being possible late last week. However, the report here says that it is extremely likely to be a permanent transfer. So straight away, Abada going to MLS mid-season and Celtic basically having to get rid of him probably means we're not going to get a big fee. It's going to be a pretty low transfer fee that we get for Liel Abada, which I guess is disappointing, but maybe it's just one of these situations that can't really be avoided. To be honest, I kind of just want him to move on at this stage. He clearly doesn't want to be at Celtic, and I don't really want players at the club who don't want to be here. That is not what we need at the moment. when we're obviously already up against it in this title race. So yeah, hopefully we hear pretty soon that Abada's going to be leaving the club. Hopefully we get a decent enough fee. I wonder if it would be maybe a loan deal with a permanent deal forthcoming in the summer. But then again, I'm thinking, would Abada actually want to move to the MLS long term? I feel like he'd probably want to stay in Europe, but who knows? Yeah, as I say, I don't want unhappy players around the club, so hopefully his future is sorted out pretty soon. Also reported yesterday, and you might have forgotten this guy's name, Yuki Kobayashi, centre-back, still on Celtic's books, but he was set to join Finnish champions HJK back in the Scottish winter transfer window, but that collapsed at the last minute. Kobayashi could still move there. The Finnish transfer window is still open at this stage, but now he is back at Lennoxtown. He is, of course, far from finished. Just the 4 years still to run on his Celtic contract. Ouch. Sticking to the very interesting theme of winter transfers that didn't actually happen, we have South Korean Ho Yeon-jung, who's been speaking about why he didn't get his move to Celtic. Now, you may remember he'd been in the press in Korea probably like late December, early January, talking about like the fact that a move to Celtic was imminent. His manager at Gwangju FC had also seemed to suggest that a move was a goer. However, it didn't materialise, and now Jung has told Sports Seoul there was no official offer. It's because I'm not good enough. If I had received an offer, I would have wanted to go to Europe, but there was no offer. I still feel like I'm lacking a lot, and I think the club felt that as well. Well, full marks for the honesty there. However, signing players lacking a lot almost seems to have been the Celtic transfer policy over the last 12 months, so I don't know how Jung didn't manage to get through. Boom, boom. In other news, scintillating news, I must say, Frank McAvenny reckons that not even Pep Guardiola could sort Celtic out at this stage. Conversely, Mark Wilson says we have a few problems but no crisis at Celtic Park. Chris Sutton has tweeted about Michael Beale again after he was sacked from his second job this season. That's Beale, not Sutton. February the 20th today, pretty one of those kind of dates that I remember pretty fondly as a Celtic fan. You know, you get those kind of dates like February the 2nd and obviously 25th of May. February the 20th is always one that sticks out. 2011, the 3-0 derby win over Rangers. The day the atmosphere really returned to Celtic Park, the kind of the making of the Green Brigade, I would say. Brilliant goals we scored that day. The Gary Hooper one where Davy Weir's still looking for him, I think. The second Hooper one from the pinpoint is a Gary cross. And Chris Coleman's got the third from long range, as he liked to do. So that game is, 13 years ago now? Which is weird because like the 6-2 demolition derby is now closer to that game than we are in the present day, which makes me feel kind of strange. But yeah, time continues to move on. There's been a few other games on February the 20th actually. Our 0-0 draw with AC Milan, which maybe wasn't that memorable. That was the Champions League last 16. Was that our debut in the Champions League last 16? I think it was. Went out a week later and lost in extra time, I think, to Milan, that famous Kaká goal. A year later, February the 20th, we had Barcelona at Celtic Park in the same stage. Lost that one 3-2. I remember that kind of bit of a making of Lionel Messi match as well there. Stuttgart 3-1 at home. Pierluigi Collina was the ref that night in the road to Seville. That was also February the 20th. And a couple of years ago, a 3-2 win over Dundee at Celtic Park as we went on to the title under Ange Postecoglou. Giakoumakis hat-trick that day. So February the 20th has been a pretty magical day for Celtic over the years, and that's just in the 21st century. No match today though. Our next match is on Sunday at Fir Park against Motherwell. We'll continue to kind of look ahead to that game as we go this week. And I'll be back this time tomorrow. Please return then. Also, if you're watching this video, which you obviously are, please consider liking the video and subscribing if you've not managed to do it yet. It'd be much appreciated.